Okay, so when it comes to mechanical switches in your mechanical keyboard, one would say it's possibly the most important thing. I tend to agree with that statement. So let's compare two really common mechanical switches found in very similar price ranges, and let's see which one is better. OUTEMU Blues or GATERON Blues. So let's start off with the similarities in what these switches are. The OUTEMU Blues and the GATERON Blues are both what some people, not all, not me, will call Cherry MX clones. And that is not completely untrue. They both have fundamentally the same design as Cherry MX Blues, and they have very similar specs to each other and Cherry MX Blues. They have about 50 to 60 grams of actuation force. They both travel 4 millimeters when it comes to total travel, and they both actuate at 2 millimeters with a nice click sound from a click jacket designed. So yeah, on paper it seems like these two switches are really similar, but actually they aren't. So that's why I made this video in the first place, to compare the OUTEMUs and the GATERONs, to tell you which one is better for you. Anyway, before we start comparing this, I'd like to say that if you want to ask any questions, ask away down in the comments or on Twitter or on Instagram, link down below, because I reply to every single tweet at me or message or comment, and if you have any queries, go ahead and ask away. Let's start off firstly with the design of these switches. Actually, there's no differences here. We're talking about differences, right? Yeah, differences, but design-wise they're the same. Let's start talking about the differences between these two switches. The first thing I want to talk about is the feel. This is arguably probably the most important part of any mechanical keyboard switch. The feel, because you'll be typing on it, you'll be interacting with it, you'll be using it to game or whatever you do. The switch is important. So how different do they feel? Well, firstly, the GATERONs are much lighter of a key switch than the OUTEMU Blues. This is objective, by the way. The GATERONs are just lighter feeling in general to the OUTEMU Blue switches, and this might be a bad or good thing depending on who you are. If you don't want to get tired after a long typing session, a lighter switch is recommended, but if you are a fast and hefty typer, a heavier switch could be a good idea to prevent misclicks, because something that happens if you're typing really fast. On top of that, the GATERON Blues do have a more linear tension, while the OUTEMU Blues seem to have this resistance curve in that the force required to push it down increases the closer you get to the actuation point. I don't know how accurate and how true this is in all the switches, but the GATERONs do feel like they're a bit more consistent in the force you press them, while the the OUTEMU Blue switches seem to require more force to activate the closer you get to the actuation points, which is a reason why it's heavier as well. On top of that, the click on the GATERONs are more subtle and more quiet and nuanced than the click on the OUTEMU Blues, and I'm talking the feel of it, in that the vibrations from the click of the GATERON is way less apparent, way less obvious than the clicks on the OUTEMU Blues. The GATERONs have this thing where it's a slight click, and the general motion of you pressing down the switch isn't that interrupted. Like the switch is just saying click, carry on with your day. While the OUTEMU Blues seem to have this thing where when you actuate the switch, the whole keycap vibrates, you feel it, and your whole motion of pressing down the switch is a bit more heavily interrupted than the GATERON Blues. Like the OUTEMU switches are, blocking your way, activating the click, and then letting you continue with the pressing. I don't know how much you understand that analogy, but that is just how I feel. The GATERON Blues are more of a slight speed bump when you click them, and the OUTEMU Blues are more of like crashing into a barrier and then continuing when you click them. So that is how I would describe the click differences. Whether it is good or bad is really up to you. I like the GATERONs for its more nuanced feel, but you might like this more because a heavier, more intense, interruptive click is probably going to be good in preventing you from bottoming out, which makes it even louder and noisier, like this versus. So yeah, so when it comes to feel, I would I like GATERONs more, but you might like OUTEMUs more. Let's talk about sound now, which is also probably really another one of the most important parts of a mechanical keyboard switch. The GATERON Blues have a more subtle, more gentle, more quiet sound. They're softer, they have a lower pitch, they're less harsh, and they're more refined sounding. OUTEMU Blues, on the other hand, have a much louder switch. They are higher pitch and they definitely sound a bit harsher to the ear. Some people, however, like clicky switches that go click and they like all the click in the world, so they might like the louder and scratchier sounding OUTEMU Blues. But for me, I like something more subtle, and if I were to go outdoors, go somewhere else with my keyboard, which I probably won't, but if there were people around, the less noisy clicky switch from the GATERON Blues is going to be something that I prefer over the really noisy OUTEMU Blues. However, there is something to be said for the OUTEMU Blues, even though I like the GATERONs more. If you are paying for the click sound and you just want all the click sound you can get, the GATERONs are not the one to choose, the OUTEMUs are the one to choose, simply put. Okay, that's enough about the sound. Let's talk about the build quality. When it comes to long-term durability, I think it's tough to compare because these switches last forever. I've never had a mechanical keyboard fail on me before, and I've never had one just die. I never had a switch just die. So to me, I can't tell you which one's more durable, but I can tell you that both of them are going to last you a long time, because the fundamental design concept of mechanical switches is that it uses, moving parts that are designed to last for a long time. And because these are based off Cherry MX designs, I think you could say that they're built to last. So that's a good thing. Apart from that, we can say that QC, the GATERON Blues sound way more consistent and feel way more consistent than the OUTEMU Blues. And this is probably the biggest difference in these two switches apart from sound. When it comes to the GATERON Blues, I don't seem to find any kind of switches sounding different. They sound generally the same. But with the OUTEMU Blues, you can go from one switch and you can go to another and it will sound completely different. It's kind of weird, and you might say, oh, that's something I won't notice, it's still clicking anyway, right? But if you're gaming and you're just pressing WASD one at a time, you're definitely gonna notice if the W sounds different from the A and sounds different from the D. Of course, this is something you could get used to and might not really matter in the long run, but if you're trying to get the best when it comes to consistency, GATERON is way better in this aspect. And in terms of feel consistency as well, the GATERON wins. It's just more consistent. Another thing I'd like to say is that the OUTEMUs do have this problem that when you hit them off center, they sound different to when you hit them directly on the center of the keycap. With the GATERONs, I don't think seem to have this issue. Maybe it's got to do with the keyboard in particular, but with the OUTEMUs, if I hit the switch off center, it will sound different to when I hit it centered. So when it comes to straight up build quality and consistency, the GATERON is the winner. This is the only aspect where I can compare objectively, because the other aspects, the sound and the feel, have to be compared subjectively, and I can't give you a conclusive winner. But in this aspect, GATERON wins. So right now, I will play a little typing test for you, which is something you can use to gauge the sound differences of these two keyboards off of. But do take note, because when it comes to mechanical keyboard switches, a lot of things affect the sound apart from the switch itself. One of them is the casing, one of them is the keycap, and because I don't have the same exact casing and keycaps for these two switches, I can't give you a super scientific comparison, but I'm still gonna play the sound test anyway so you can see the differences in sound. So I guess that's that from the comparison. I guess it's conclusion time then. Which one is the better one for you? Well, at the end of the day, the best thing you could do is go to a shop and try out both switches. But personally, I will take the GATERON Blues. It's more subtle, it's more nuanced, the sound is less annoying to my ears. But if you're someone who really likes, to have a really strong, clicky feeling keyboard, this is the one, this is the switch you should go for. And that's that. It's up to you. Also, when choosing keyboard, just remember that the switch isn't everything. There's other things to consider as well, so don't just tunnel vision on the mechanical switch. It's important, but there are other things that are important as well. So I guess that's that for this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.